I've lived next to Willowbrook Park my entire life. 28 years of waking up to the sound of kids playing, dogs barking, joggers pounding the pavement at dawn. But there's something about that place after dark that's always made my skin crawl. It started 3 months ago. I was having trouble sleeping, work stress, you know how it is, so I'd taken to these late-night walks. The park closes at sunset, but there's this gap in the fence behind the old oak tree that everyone knows about. The first time I noticed it, I thought I was seeing things. It was maybe 2 a.m., and I was cutting through toward the pond when I heard this creaking, rhythmic, like someone was on the swing set. I figured it was just the wind. The swings are old, probably installed in the 80s, and the chains are rusty. But when I got closer, I could see the middle swing moving back and forth. Not randomly like wind would cause, deliberately, like someone was pushing off with their feet. The thing is, there was no one there. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes, watching this empty swing move in perfect arcs. Back and forth, back and forth. The other swings were completely still, no wind that night. Just that one swing moving like it had a rider. I convinced myself it was some kind of mechanical issue. Maybe the bearings were worn in a way that created momentum. I went home, looked it up online. Couldn't find anything that explained it. But I kept going back. Night after night, same time, same swing. Always the middle one. And here's the part that really got to me. It would stop the moment I got too close. Not gradually, like it was running out of momentum. Just stop, dead still. Like whatever was using it had suddenly become aware of me. Last week, I brought my phone to record it. The swing was moving when I arrived, just like always. I held up the camera, started recording, and the swing wasn't moving in the video. I was watching it with my own eyes, hearing the chains creak, but through my phone screen, it was perfectly still. I lowered the phone, still moving. Raised it again, still as death. That's when I heard the voice. A little girl's voice, so faint I almost missed it. "Will you push me higher?" I ran. Flat out, sprinted to that gap in the fence and didn't stop until I was back in my apartment. But as I was fumbling with my keys, I heard it again, carried on the wind from the direction of the park. "Will you push me higher, Travis?" She knew my name. I thought about calling the police, but what was I going to say? "Officer, there's a ghost child on the swing set who knows my name?" They'd have me committed. So I did what any rational person would do. I avoided the park. For 2 weeks, I took a different route to work, ordered groceries for delivery, basically became a hermit. But the thing about living right next to a place that's haunting you, you can't really escape it. My bedroom window faces the park, and every night around 2 a.m., I'd find myself drawn to look out. The swing set was too far away to see clearly, but I swear I could make out movement in that area, like a shadow that was slightly darker than the rest. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Chun, who finally got me back out there. She mentioned that her dog, Buster, had been acting strange during their evening walks. Wouldn't go past the jogging path anymore. Would plant his feet and whine if she tried to drag him toward that section of the park. "Started about 2 weeks ago," she said. "Right around the time you stopped using the park. You two always walked at the same time. Maybe he misses seeing you." 2 weeks ago, right when I'd stopped going. So last Tuesday, I decided to brave it again. Daylight this time. Figured whatever was happening might be limited to the night hours. I entered through the main gate, stayed on the paved paths, told myself I was being ridiculous. The jogging path loops around the entire park, about 1.5 miles. I'd run it hundreds of times over the years, but about halfway around, near the cluster of pine trees, I noticed something new. Footprints. Not unusual by itself, lots of people use that path. But these prints, they were small, child-sized, barefoot, and they only appeared on a 20-foot stretch of the path, right where the pine trees create this natural tunnel of shadows. The prints started out of nowhere, no leading tracks, like the person had just materialized there. And they ended the same way, just stopped, mid-stride. I knelt down to get a closer look. The impressions were deep, pressed into the dirt like they'd been made by someone running hard. But here's what made my blood run cold. They were still wet. Not from morning dew, wet like they'd just been made. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, and there was nothing there. But when I looked back at the ground, there was a new print, right next to where I was kneeling. I stood up slowly, and that's when I saw her, about 10 feet away, partially hidden by the pine branches. A little girl in a white dress, couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old. She was facing away from me, but I could see her feet, bare, dirty, exactly the size of the prints I'd been examining. "Excuse me," I called out. "Are you lost? Where are your parents?" She didn't move, didn't acknowledge me at all, just stood there perfectly still. I took a step closer. "Hey, are you okay?" That's when she turned around. She had no face, just smooth skin where her features should have been. But somehow, impossibly, I could feel her looking at me, staring right into my soul with eyes that weren't there. And then she spoke, her voice coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "I've been waiting for you to come back, Travis. I missed our talks." Our talks? I'd never seen this child before in my life. But as she said it, I had this horrible flash of memory, or maybe it wasn't a memory. Maybe it was something else being planted in my head. Sitting on the swing next to her, pushing her higher and higher as she laughed. Walking this very path together, her small hand in mine. Hours and hours of conversations I couldn't quite remember but somehow knew had happened. "You promised you'd teach me to run fast," she continued. "Like the big kids. Will you run with me now?" I wanted to say no. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to run in the opposite direction. But when I opened my mouth, different words came out. "Of course, sweetie. Just like we always do." And I started running, following her deeper into the pine grove, off the main path, toward a part of the park I'd never seen before. Running and running while some part of my mind that was still rational screamed at me to stop. The last thing I remember clearly was her laughter, echoing through the trees, sweet and innocent and absolutely terrifying. I woke up at home 3 hours later, fully dressed, my running shoes caked with mud and pine needles. I should have left town then, should have packed up and moved as far away from Willowbrook Park as possible. But there's something about this place, about her, that won't let me go. It's like I'm caught in some kind of loop. Every night I tell myself I'm staying inside. Every night I end up back in that park. And each time, I remember a little more about our friendship. She calls herself Emma, says we've been best friends for forever and ever. Shows me games we used to play, places we used to hide, secrets we used to share. Except I have no memory of any of it from my waking hours. It's only when I'm there, with her, that it feels real and familiar. Last night was different, though. Last night, she wanted to show me her favorite place. The pond sits at the heart of Willowbrook Park. During the day, it's beautiful. Ducks paddling around, families feeding the fish, kids skipping stones. But at night, the water turns black as oil, reflecting nothing but consuming everything. Emma led me to the old wooden dock that extends about 10 feet into the water. The boards are rotted and warped. The city's been meaning to replace it for years, but somehow it held our weight. "This is where I like to think," she said, dangling her bare feet over the edge. "Sometimes I sit here for hours and hours, watching the water. Want to know a secret?" I sat down beside her, and that's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Our reflections in the water, they were wrong. I could see myself clearly, sitting on the dock, but where Emma should have been, there was just empty space, like she was casting no reflection at all. "Emma," I said carefully, "how long have you been coming to this park?" She smiled, and for the first time I could see her face clearly. Sweet, innocent, Exactly what you'd expect from a 7-year-old girl. Except for her eyes. Her eyes were ancient, tired, filled with a sadness that went deeper than any child should ever know. A very long time, Travis. Longer than you've been alive. Longer than your parents were alive. I've been waiting here for so long for someone like you. Someone like me? Someone who can see me. Someone who can remember. Most people, they walk right through me like I'm not even here. But you? She reached out and took my hand, and her touch was ice cold. You've always been special. That's when the final pieces clicked into place. The old newspaper clippings I'd found in my apartment storage unit. The ones from 1987. A little girl named Emma Rodriguez, who drowned in Willowbrook Park pond. Her body was never recovered. The investigation revealed she'd been coming to the park alone for weeks before the accident. Other children reported seeing her talking to an invisible friend by the duck pond. Someone she claimed had been teaching her to swim. You were here before, I whispered. 37 years ago. You were waiting for me then, too. Emma nodded, her grip on my hand tightening. Time works differently when you're like me. Past, present, future, it's all the same. I knew you'd come back eventually. I knew you'd remember our friendship. But I was just a baby in 1987. I couldn't have. Not this version of you, she said patiently. The other version. The one who promised he'd always be my friend. The one who said he'd never leave me alone. I tried to pull my hand away, but her grip was impossibly strong. The temperature around us was dropping rapidly, and the surface of the pond was beginning to ice over despite the warm October night. I've been so lonely, Travis. Do you know what it's like to be alone for 37 years? To watch all the other children grow up and leave while you stay exactly the same. The ice was spreading outward from the dock, and I could feel something pulling at my legs. Looking down, I saw hands, dozens of pale, ghostly hands, reaching up from the black water. The thing is, Emma continued conversationally, I don't think I was ever really alive at all. I think I've always been here waiting, and I think you've always been meant to join me. That's when I understood. The reason I could see her when others couldn't. The reason she knew my name, knew things about me I'd never told anyone. The reason I felt drawn to this park night after night. I wasn't her friend. I was her next victim. But as the hands pulled me down into the icy water, as Emma's laughter filled my ears and the world went dark around me, I realized something even more terrifying. Part of me wanted to go. Part of me had always wanted to stay in Willowbrook Park forever. If you're ever walking through Willowbrook Park late at night, and you hear a little girl laughing by the pond, if you see the swing moving on its own, if you notice fresh footprints on the jogging path, keep walking. Don't look back. And whatever you do, don't let her know your name. Because I'll be there too now, waiting with Emma, and we're always looking for new friends to play with, forever and ever.